Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May 7th edition of the Gateway API sync, our EU-friendly sync, which has been very popular in the past and probably will be doing a lot more of. As always, this is a meeting governed by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, effectively boiling down to please be nice to one another. So please do be nice to one another. When possible, please try to use the raised hand feature in Zoom to either ask questions or interject, as that helps us to organize the meeting and keep things flowing well. We do appreciate if you would put your name on the attendees list in the meeting notes, especially for this meeting, since it's kind of the odd one out, to help influence more meetings at this time and stuff like that. We'll give a couple seconds before we get started on the agenda. Oh, the agenda is open. It's an open agenda, so even now while we're starting on the agenda, you are welcome to add things to the end of the agenda. Anything that isn't there, or rather isn't something we can get to, we can always put on the next and do at the next meeting. We'll give a couple of seconds. I think it's possible we have some newcomers in here. For any newcomers that want to introduce themselves, we'd love to hear from you, even if it's just a hello or just tell us what you're doing with Gateway API, that kind of thing. We'll give a couple of seconds for that. Please feel free to pipe up.
Hey folks, I can introduce myself. Peter Kelly. I work at Tigera, who own and maintain Project Calico. And this is my first time joining the Gateway API meeting. It's something we're exploring and potentially looking at supporting directly in Calico.
Very cool. You work with Casey Davenport?
I do indeed. Although he's in San Francisco and I'm over in Cork in Ireland. Similar
Roger
to
that.
Owen, it seems.
Roger that.
Yeah, none of us
I
have
was
run across that sort of time zone difference before.
that's most of my work is across time zones.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for joining, and let us know how we
Welcome.
can help you find what you're looking for, or if you just want to hang out, that's great. Let us know how we can support you.
Awesome.
Anybody else new and want to pipe up?
Yeah, I can say hi too. I'm Rajat. I work with Booking. We're doing a huge Istio migration internally, and that made me look into the whole Gamma side of it. So I'm here to just be a fly on the wall, I guess, for today.
Very cool. Booking. Do you guys
Welcome.
still do Perl at Booking?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a
Yeah.
huge
Very cool. I can't remember his name all of a sudden, but the Pumpkin for Perl for a long time. I knew him. I spent some time with him. He worked there at Booking. I can't remember his name all of a sudden though, but he was like
Just
in
admit
charge
it.
of Perl releases for a long time. It's
Just
been a
admit
while.
it, Shane. You're a sucker for old technologies still in production.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did Perl for a while.
Oh, so
But
did
very
I.
cool. Yeah, very cool. Thanks for joining. And again, let us know how we can support
Welcome.
you if there's anything you're looking for in particular, stuff like that. Catch up with us on Slack and Kubernetes.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'm Owen, also based in Cork, because we're everywhere. Working on the Ingress project at the moment with Nginx and looking to potentially start contributing to the gateway side of things as well. So yeah.
Very cool.
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. If nobody else, everybody that's new, thanks for coming again. Let us know how we can support you. Please check in with us on Kubernetes Slack. That's a great place to keep in touch. Otherwise, well, I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started here. Yeah? That look right?
Cool. Yeah.
Did it break?
Yeah,
No,
looks like the
it
document
looks right
today.
to me. It just, oh yeah, that's better. I can actually.
I'm trying.
Well, I mean,
I'm trying.
It's wrong because the background is black instead of white, but
Well, if you're gonna be like that about it, I'm gonna leave it black. No, if it really is a problem, I could make it white, but I think he's just razzing me. So
Yep.
we'll move on to the meeting notes. So we're gonna go over 1.1 first. You'll see in the meeting notes that we have a slide deck. This was presented to all of SIG Network kind of as like the Rob made this to kind of give like the entrance to the review process. That review process is up here at this Google Doc, which you can go check out if you're interested. We would love to have all and anybody is welcome to join in that review process. If there's anything in there that you think is amiss, feel free to make a comment. RC1 for Wednesday, April 24th, check. RC2, check. And next week, or no, tomorrow. Wait, this week.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Soon.
Tomorrow.
Soon. Very soon, we will be having the final release. So if you were interested in taking a look over the review, tonight would be great. If you have not yet, please do it tonight. Otherwise, we will be shipping at some point tomorrow if we don't hear any more problems. Anything you want to add to that, Rob?
No, I think that's exactly right. We're on track, but please don't hesitate to give some additional feedback in case we've missed anything. We've gotten a few positive reports of implementations running through conformance tests, doing all their tests, and this release seems to be good based on RC2. But more reports and more feedback are always welcome, trying to avoid as many bugs as possible in this final release.
Roger that. Don't see any hands for questions or anything. If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Candace, for the next Kubernetes blog we publish, should we use a list like this? Let's take a look. And she rickrolled me. No, okay, it's a real list. All right. Should we use a list like this for the blog? Okay.
I can give a little bit of context here. I tried to link the comment thread from Tim Bannister from SIG Docs Review.
Yeah.
Basically, we have an extremely long list of blog authors. It looks kind of funky, and there's been a suggestion that like we should just have like 1 to 3 at the very most, or potentially like covering that through like a release team the way the Upstream Cube does.
Okay.
Can you, Shane,
Why
can you
is
flip over to the diff itself so that we can look at the rendered version? Or even better, there should be a Netlify preview where we can see the rendered version of
I was
this.
about to say, I was going to say, why is this a problem? And it seems like he's saying this is why it's a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
If
I
other
do not
people
feel
think
that
that's a
this-
problem, yeah, I don't.
I do not feel that this is a problem personally.
I don't either.
I'm somewhat biased because I'm one of the people listed, but oh no, wait, I don't think I am one of the people listed.
Oh,
on that.
Flynn's in there.
Awesome,
Yeah, we should definitely shorten this up then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna say I think it'd be fair, and but I don't really feel like this is a problem.
No, I don't either. Like I don't. My immediate gut
I-
reaction is like,
Yeah,
is this breaking somebody's phone? Like what?
I think that one of the things going on here is that most of the time when you see people write blogs, then it really is a single person writing the blog, and then maybe somebody else chimes in here or there, but it tends to be a small number of people. A lot of things with Gateway API are kind of different. A lot of the names on that list are people who did contribute a lot to the blog post, and I think that it's fine to acknowledge that. Emphasizing the fact that emphasizing a lot of collaboration for other people to see does not seem like a problem to me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I think this is the last time that Tim is going to let us do this. And we're lucky he's going to let us do it this time. He can be very stringent about the things that he won't allow to be in the blog. And it's more or less an issue. He says as soon as people read 3 names, they're going to stop reading anyways. So it's kind of a, it's a observation from a writer's, a real blog writer's, a real tech writer's viewpoint. So the way that they've handled it in the past is to link to a team of people who worked on that particular release. And I, instead of changing it, I said, yeah, maybe we'll look at that for next time. So I wanted to bring it up here in the meeting and talk about it for the next time we make a blog post, Kubernetes blog post.
Sure.
And then.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I will raise my hand.
And then mentioned it to Rob, or maybe Rob looked at this independently on his own. Yeah, he looked at it independently and started to put together something where we could do this. And he put up a pull request, as you see in the meeting notes, that not only has a list of the authors per release, but also kind of subdivides the changelog so that it's you don't have to scroll all the way through. The old changelog was just a long list of everything, and the new changelog is split by release. And there's also this link here that's a table of contributors for the release, and maybe we could do something like this, which is what Tim wants us to do. And we really want to do whatever we can to make sure that there isn't a delay on the blog posts whenever we try to post them. Done.
Is this potentially a situation where we've misunderstood or mischaracterized Tim's position in this because we haven't done any pushing back? So we assume that it's what he wants us to do, but maybe if we had some pushback, he's open to suggestion.
There's been a lot of pushback.
Okay. I mean, I asked because it was a legitimate question. Like,
No, Candace has done a great job, like representing the position of like wanting to make sure that people get credit for the work they've done, and I really appreciate that. She's at, but yeah, like there's.
Yeah, I would agree with Mike on this one. This is definitely not a lack of pushback situation.
Okay.
But it is something we have to negotiate. Just that out there.
Sure. If somebody could take meeting notes, by the way, just asynchronously, that would be fantastic. Has anybody asked if this is something they can build a facility for in the blog for release blog entries to try to create a better display layer or table or whatever? Like, do the work there? Has anybody suggested it? Just curious.
So the way that it's presented now is a part of a template. So all the authors have to be listed under a field that is that is the list of authors. Okay. So that
so there is some rendering for it somewhere.
Yeah. And I think that's new. Last time we did a blog post, I don't think we had that.
Okay. So just to be clear, in the blog post, it will render our list. So it's the same, we're getting the same result. It's just how we do it differently.
No, if you take a look at the link I posted in Kubernetes in Zoom chat. Sorry, no, I'll add it to the agenda too, so you don't have to scroll through.
I got some chat.
Find the agenda.
The blog entry for 130.
Yeah.
Kubernetes.
Yeah. Classic name.
Okay, it's open. Editors.
So that's what they want. Just I'll go back to the top. They just Kubernetes their author is just release team, and then you click on that and you get a list of everybody who that is.
Yeah, that's what he's asking us to do.
We got all this room for this kitty cat. Don't we got room for people's names? Like what? Okay. All right, but this is the standard they want to go by. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I asked my questions then. It sounds like I feel very unstrongly about the whole thing, but making the change. But if this has already kind of been done, thank you to Candace, Mike, Rob, all of you for taking the time to kind of tease this one out. I guess I'm fine with the link approach.
I think it's silly, but I also think that there's no real. I think it's silly, but I also think this is not the hill upon which I would like to die.
I've got enough hills. I've got enough hills I'm dying on in a week.
Yeah, exactly. There's
cool.
There are other hills that are more important.
One of the things that go ahead, Candace.
Go ahead.
Oh, just for historical purposes, originally this was going to take us 4 weeks to get a blog post in. But instead we're able to put it in tomorrow, I think, because of some concessions that I made, or that, you know, that Rob helped negotiate with Tim. So I don't feel like I feel like everybody's represented here. I could have made a smaller list, and next time I think we should, but I mean, it's up to the team to decide. So, I mean, Shane, if you feel really strongly, we can probably try to figure out some other way to do it. But it is nice to have everybody's name in one place under the change log as well, I think.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you navigating that. Thank you.
Likewise.
Feeling really strongly. I like Flynn was kind of saying, I already have 6 hills I have to die on this month, so not very
Yeah,
strongly.
and
Well, 6 hills to try to avoid dying on, maybe, you know.
Sure, but Rob.
I mean, one thing I actually am, pretty happy about as an end result of this is, the change logs being accompanied by now a concept of a release team, whatever we want to call it. But basically, you can look back in time and say, oh, these are the people that own this feature in this release. And it's more visible on more than just the blog post is potentially helpful. Open to improvements, but yeah, agree, this is not the hill worth dying on for any of us. So
Roger that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the work, and thank you for letting us know this is all going on, and thanks for putting in a fix so that we can kind of do this better in the future when we need longer lists. If there's nothing else to talk about on that one, I think we can move on. Any other hands want to go up on that one? All right, then let's start talking about planning for 1.2 next week. And actually, I'll bring up the project board.
So to clarify, I didn't really. I mean, we can go through the whole thing. Yeah, this could be helpful, but my main goal here is just a reminder that especially in the next week or two, we're going to be thinking a lot about what comes into scope for 1.2. And so
Wow,
start
that's a lot
thinking
of
about
experimental gaps.
It sure
Yep.
is.
18.
So the way I like to look at this is how many of these do we think we can move to standard? And then for the ones that we think we can move to standard, that opens up slots for things to move into experimental. So what are the most highest priority things that we can fit into experimental channel as new? And I know there have been a lot of really compelling discussions already, but that's going to be the focus of our conversations over the next couple of weeks at least. So looking at this right off, I think the duration and timeouts, those are two very closely bundled, but those both feel like they're on track. No pressure, Flynn, to move on.
What's that? Shane?
I'm just hovering over the assigned person. No, I was just messing with you.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Oh, we didn't
Let's be
move
clear.
gRPC route over. So some of we need to do some work on this. There's
Yeah,
a
a little
few
bit
things
of
in
cleanup.
here.
This one's closed, but inimplementable. I could take a look at that one. We can do that stuff asynchronously. But
Yeah, that
just to
one's
call out.
Yeah.
There
If
is a
you
little bit of
haven't
cleanup.
seen this board, do see this board. It can be kind of helpful.
It can also be kind of terrifying.
It can be, and that's
Yes.
and that's helpful.
Exactly. Yeah.
But go on, Rob.
Wait, if
Rob,
you load that again, I have a completely different view than you. Is yours doing some weird
I'm looking
caching?
I added a board view at some point. You're doing this view, right?
the list view.
No, so I have 11 in proposed. Okay, yeah, it was
Likewise.
and now
11
you have
proposed,
no.
1
Okay, I see. You were just all the way over to
I
experimental.
was scrolled.
Okay.
Yeah, we have this board goes like this. Woo!
Yeah.
So
Sweet.
I was over here.
Okay, that's fair.
So to clarify, did are we asking what we consider graduating to standard right now, or like follow up?
In the 1.2 release.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, is it open to discussion right now, or you're planning to do
I
it
mean, we don't need. We're certainly not going to decide on anything now, but it's worth at least thinking about what could fit.
So so I think there is this status gateway class status supported features that was already supported within Istio, but Envoy Gateway was waiting. So Kobe had worked to do the support on Envoy Gateway, but they waited for 1.1 because there wasn't any release before. So now it is like it's still waiting for Envoy Gateway to update to RC1, and this should work. But we need 3 to actually move it to standard, right?
I would like to be able to commit
best.
Linkerd to that, but I cannot do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I mean, I can try finding more folks to implement it if you are willing to have someone to support them. And I remember Keith is not here, but I remember like one of the last few meetings, he was saying that they are interested in implementing it as well. But
you said Istio already implements it now, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Keith is with Istio now.
Maybe?
No,
it could be for the Microsoft Azure north-south implementation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Fair.
I can follow up on that. Feel free to loop me in.
I'll follow up on this too. I will mention it. There's a couple of teams that do Kubernetes and Gateway API implementations at Kong. I will mention it, and if they have a strong interest, see if I can get them to connect with you on this issue.
Is Mattia on the call? Like, I think Mattia.
Yes, I'm here. I've been advocating for this some time ago. I didn't manage to get it prioritized in the Kong Ingress controller, so I cannot promise anything. I mean, it's something that
I mean, last time we spoke, you mentioned you're waiting on other to implement it, right? So if Envoy and Istio will already be there, so would it be fine?
Yeah, it may be.
We can check.
Yeah, we can check. Yeah.
One thing that could
promises.
One thing that could force the issue. I'm not saying we should, but
I knew it. I felt it coming.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to, one of our goals for this is to drive conformance directly from gateway class status, and so we could start with that.
That is compelling.
It's on my to-do list. I think it's somewhere also on GitHub. I've been waiting to have at least more than one implementation to implement it, to not just be once we have to, I'll try to find time to actually do the transition. But it actually means that unless we're doing it in some gradual way, it actually means that most of the conformance, like most of the implementations, would not have conformance set up correctly. And if we introduce a flag to opt in to use it, so then we're not encouraging the implementation to do so. So we're a bit on like. So
Isn't
I'm not
Rob
sure.
suggesting we don't enable a flag?
Yeah. So, but that means that
I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
So it means that once I do it, so all the implementations are not reporting conformance correctly. I mean, I'm all good with this.
There's a balance to be had there. I'm not strictly opposed to forcing the issue a little bit, but it does kind of depend on, cost to the implementer, because we don't want to be rude. So
By the way, Flynn, do you have someone to pair if I give you someone to implement it, or
we're skipping ahead a little bit into topics that I was not expecting to talk too much about in this meeting, just because it's a massive rabbit hole. But
the bear
there's
hole?
Yeah, or something like that. There's an interesting coupling between what are the cloud providers doing, what versions of Gateway API are out there, what versions of Gateway API should Linkerd be picking up, and bandwidth on the Linkerd engineering team. So I would be happy to stay in touch with you about this one and, you know, kind of bear this in mind as I talk with people. But yeah, there's a substantial amount of stuff that we get to figure out over the short term for what happens when over in Linkerd land.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, that is kind of also skipping ahead to the point on the agenda of ongoing discussion about versioning and release channels, which Rob was going to talk about, and I will happily let Rob lead the discussion on that one for now. But I actually kind of like the idea of gateway class feature status being a thing that becomes standard in 1.2. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think timeouts and durations also should become standard.
At a display level, it's a little, it has some wonkiness to it, but I think overall a really strong benefit to the user, if nothing else.
I'm sorry, which one was that, Shane? The
Gateway.
feature status?
Yeah, the feature status.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I may have been just, you know, preaching to the choir, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have much less strong opinions about the other three things that have appeared on the list, other than, yeah. Never mind.
Roger that.
Carry on.
Appreciate your stepping up with this one and like bringing it up today, Liar. As a matter of fact, even though it may, I don't know if maybe you don't, but people might think they don't want to be pushy in the way that you are. It's a very good thing that you are. You're advocating for this and helping it move forward at a time when that's what we need for all of these things. We need people to be strong advocates. So thank you for that.
Pushiness is a feature. Obnoxious pushiness is a little different, but
yeah, no, it is a feature. Thank you. That's what we need more of to help get this pipeline cleaned up. Because like you see, we had 18, didn't we? Somebody moved something. Well, anyway, 15
Yeah, I moved a
experimental
few.
things. Where'd you put them?
So yeah, a couple went
he
to
just put them in
standard,
withdrawn.
thanks
It's
gRPC
fine.
route, and one went to memorandum. But that's just the reality of V1.1. So I guess I got a day ahead of myself, but sure.
Roger that.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you. And for everybody else that's on the call, if you are on one of these, please do be pushy. In a nice way, but be a strong advocate for your GEP because we need that more than ever. TLS route, TCP route, and UDP route are potentially going to be a topic of conversation soon. Go ahead. What were you saying, Flynn?
I'll be a little pushy in that I think 15 on the experimental list is too many. And I think that it would be a very good thing, TM, to be moving these quickly enough that we can get that number to be smaller.
Indeed. We are on the, and that's actually where I was going with this. We are kind of on the cusp of, we're waiting. We've been talking about this in previous Gateway API meetings, but TCP route and UDP route in particular are kind of on the edge of withdrawn, which doesn't mean we never do them. It means nobody is driving them forward. UDP route got a little bit of life breathed into it this year. But just so there are some in here that I think can be cleaned up, but even then I think we'll still end up with around 10 or more. So I agree, that's a huge number. And we should probably be dedicating a significant amount of time to project management kinds of things that can help us to organize that better and maybe see if there are some things that we do have to, in fact, kind of cut. Maybe. So we'll keep that up. I think I would just propose that for the next couple, and thank you for reminding us, Rob, because obviously it's time to start thinking about this so that we kind of ended up in a space with 1.1. And part of this was because of people's schedules got really weird after KubeCon Paris, but where 1.1 kind of didn't go as, it didn't go quite as like we'd like, and we want to make sure that we get in a good release cadence. Ideally, we do more than 2 releases a year. Next year, if we could aim for 3 releases in the year, that'd be great. And I think you wanted to talk a little bit more about that in general, Rob, with this document. So segue into that.
Yeah, that's a very smooth transition. Okay, so this is a doc that has been in the works for a little bit, but it is just the idea of trying to clean up our release process. You've probably, if you've been in previous Gateway meetings, you've probably heard little bits of goals that we have as a community, or that I have at least, of trying to make our release process more predictable, and giving timelines that allow us to release more quickly. And for implementations in the broader community, you can know months in advance when a release is going to happen with a pretty high degree of confidence, which I know would be beneficial to a lot of people. So what I'm proposing is moving a little bit closer to upstream Kubernetes in terms of how they've handled releases. And the longer we exist, the more it becomes obvious why they made the decisions they made. And one of the things that I really want to focus on is having a well-defined phases. One being entirely for scoping the release, deciding what we're trying to fit into release before we even get deep into the details of a gap. And then the second phase for actually defining and building the gaps themselves, ensuring that we're all on board with what we think are in scope. And then basically having a firm cutoff at the end of each one of these phases at a predefined date that says if it doesn't make it in by this period, it's out, essentially. And then finally, the API refinement and documentation, like once we have all the gaps, they're approved, we're good, then we're actually translating that into API spec and corresponding docs for that API change. And then the final phase is actually the review and release candidate. So this is a high level idea right now, but the key things are just having a well-defined timeline for every single release, for every single phase of release, avoiding any kind of last-minute additions to the release, and instead just having at the end of any phase, you have defined and agreed on the specific date that the next phase will end, or maybe we decide on all these dates up front to be determined. But really looking to provide a more predictable release cadence here, and hopefully slightly faster along the way. But yeah, one of the main goals I would say is to get everyone in the community focused on the same thing at the same time. So that means if we take this approach, the next month is going to be entirely focused, or less, is going to be entirely focused on scoping, on deciding what we think belongs in 1.2. And that may require some initial due diligence on what exactly is what a gap is for. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Leo, you've got a hand.
Yeah, just a quick question. I want, like, is this document contains not to put anyone on the spot, but like some past examples for what's the motivation? Because you mentioned I would really, so it will be really nice if it makes the thing faster, but what I'm afraid that it will make the velocity actually slower, because there will be much more stages to do. Maybe people will feel a bit unmotivated. So I think being developed outside of K/K was the best part of actually contributing to Gateway API and not to Kubernetes.
There are ways that I feel like the biggest thing that Rob is talking about changing here, the biggest things are, one, formalizing the concept of taking some time to figure out what we want to be in a release, and two, formalizing a deadline after which we're not going to take new stuff into the release. So I feel like there's a lot of words here, but not a lot of change here. And that seems like a good thing to me, right?
I definitely, I see where Leo is coming from, because what I've proposed here would be of, say, a 4-month release process.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get something included in that release, you need to make a case for that in the first month. And if you don't make a case for it in the first month, you've got to wait for another 4 months, or to catch the next release train.
But
And
realistically, that's already the case.
Yeah.
Because realistically, if you come in, if we're going, hey, let's do 1.1 on May 8th, and you come in on April 15th and go, I've got this brand new thing, let's get it out. You're very likely to get a response of, we don't really have time to do that correctly. How about pick up the next one?
But
And
it
if we're
depends how
doing
big it
things,
is.
if we're doing cadences, a more consistent release cadence, though, then that cost of waiting goes down as well.
Yeah, but I don't think that will necessarily come. Like, I don't think we will do like. I mean, I would definitely vote for that, but I don't think we will do a more frequent release cadence. But I think one of the things I liked is like we have been flexible with features we wanted to include. But what I miss is like, what are the problems, the past experiences we're trying to solve, other than just we became GA, we want to standardize more. Like, what are the pitfalls?
Yeah, so there's a few. I think unpredictability is a huge one. I know that's been a struggle for everyone involved in the API, and ultimately it becomes pressure on maintainers. Oh yeah, we are running out of time. But
speaking of pressure on maintainers,
yeah, I love that. But basically this release in particular, but many releases, we get good and well-meaning PRs that are coming a week or two ahead of when we're trying to release. And I don't want to be the person that says, well, this is an arbitrary cutoff. Like, this is the thing that we can't include, but we included the thing a week before that. At some point, it becomes this very arbitrary thing where somebody has to say, okay, this is the cut we're moving. And I'd rather project that well in advance of saying, this is the cut, and if you make it before, you made it, otherwise, whatever, as opposed to being kind of a day of decision. Well, yeah, we decided this was the time. We just really don't like your proposal. That's like I hate being in that position. So again,
Rob,
just more predictability at every stage.
Yeah, and part of that is not just predictability in when the release comes out, but predictability about what people should expect during the release. And I have seen several of the instances that Rob is talking about, and yeah, some of those seemed a little uncomfortable.
Shane?
So I called for time just because we're about at 15 minutes and we do have some agenda left. My 2 cents is I almost all thumbs up for that doc. I read it this morning. Everything on there sounds good. The one thing that gives me a little bit of hesitation is the idea of like not letting anything else into the experimental pipeline, but that would open up a whole nother can of worms. If you're interested in this conversation, there are already threads in the doc. Please do join in on this doc. We'll do this async since we're kind of running low on time today. And we'll probably bring this up again at next week's meeting as well.
Or maybe Shane and I will just get together and arm wrestle and sell tickets or something.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't want
to. Just one clarification on what you said, Shane. I'm not trying to avoid any new things in experimental. It's the first, like everything that comes out of experimental, a new thing, pipelining. So you need to make a slot.
Yeah. I wasn't
avoiding.
I may have misspoke on that. I don't remember now, but I didn't misunderstand. So I'm like not against it. I just. Anyway,
I think it's a really good idea. Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to limit the amount of work in progress there.
I do too, but there's nuance, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna get into it. I'll just get into it in the doc. I'll update in the doc. Please do, everybody else, update in the doc, and again, we'll probably bring this one up again next week, and maybe in the coming weeks until we finally have a process in place, or change our official process. Go ahead, Rob. Ongoing discussion around versioning and release channels.
Why don't we leave that till the very end, because other people have stuff on the agenda. We've
talked
Rob about this. Oh, look at that. Okay. So meeting times. I think we've gotten decent attendance at this meeting time slot, and what we had this discussion first at the earlier meeting, depending on your perspective, last week about the very same question. If if we were to cancel this meeting time altogether, how many people at this meeting time slot are able to make the other time slot, the one that is 3 p.m. Pacific time? I think it's probably a pretty small set of people at this.
I think the reason we're here is because the 3 p.m. Pacific doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, certainly not
that
consistently.
That is my take as well. So one of the things we are strongly considering, I can't commit to yet, but given a similar reaction from the people at the other meeting time slot, I think that we're considering doing every other meeting in this time slot. So increasing the frequency of this. I don't want to overcommit, but that is, I think, likely. That's what I would say. I want to get a couple more confirmations, but we could end up meeting at this time slot in as soon as 2 weeks. I'll
That would be good.
definitely do some broader communication before we finalize on that.
Cool. Thank you for continuing that thread. It's been a long thread. We keep saying we're going to keep following up on it. It does take a little while to make changes like that, but I appreciate that we are, because it definitely is a huge difference for me. 6 to 7 p.m. on Monday nights is rough.
It's terrible.
It's rough. Cool. So I think
pretty much every Monday that comes around, and I look at it and go, "Oh, I wonder if I'm going to be." Nope, not going to be able to make it this time. So yeah.
Roger that. I think maybe one action item is just to double share this in Slack too, right, Rob?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just how much time do we got? We got plenty. Lior, signal boost about Yame's contribution OpenAI to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I wanted to appreciate and yeah, I don't know how to spell your name, but can you please
please call me Guy. Everybody calls me Guy.
Yeah, but I wanna know your name fully. Though if you tell me once, I'll know it.
Guilherme.
Guilherme. All right.
Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. I have some Spanish accent if I talk with Spanish people. Anyway, yeah, so that's a great contribution. I think OpenAPI, it was an interesting evolution to make it as a provider. It's actually not my idea. It's Guilherme Arco, so it's really a good idea, and I think it's going to be useful because a lot of people out there supports OpenAPI. So yeah, if any one of you is happen to have interest on this, so please feel free to review it, and yeah, thank you, Guy, for this contribution.
Yeah, wow, very solid.
Sure. Well, it took me maybe 3-4 days to accomplish like 80% of the work. And if you are familiar with how software development usually goes, finishing up the remaining 20% will probably take me like 2 years, but hopefully it's good enough for some initial feedback.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Is there anything in particular blocking you?
No, not really blocking, but some discussion that needs to happen, right? For example, we don't know where information such as backend references, controller, gateway controller name will come from, right? Because it's not like converting from actual ingress objects, right? We're converting for something that it's completely different, right? And it was suggested to add some additional, I think, command line arguments or configuration for those, right? But that would be the first time we're going to do that for ingress to gateway, as far as I know. So anyway, just some more discussion needed. So if you have an opinion on that, please comment on the PR.
Indeed. I see Mattia added himself, so he's going to take a look as well. Very cool. Thanks for raising this and kind of bringing it up.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh, thank you.
No hands are up, so I'll assume we can move on to the next. Oh, and the link is here for anybody who wants to take a look at that. That's OpenAI spec conversions and ingress to gateway. API, sorry, OpenAI. I've replaced myself with a GPT. I apologize for my mistakes. Query params gep, Lior.
Yeah, I mean, I've just happened to be request on review. I mean, it's not, it's relatively new. I think we need feedback from more implementations. But one thing I found out, I commented on the gap, is that there is a PR from 1 day ago for supporting it in Envoy, like in a more standardized way than Lua filters. So yeah, I mean, all the implementation implementers out there, like, please comment, especially I think the person claimed that Kong supports it as well. So yeah. Yeah, I want to leave time for Rob for the other one. So, but yeah, it's just like we need more feedback here from actual implementers.
Roger that.
Yeah, no, this is really interesting. I have been meaning to follow this one, and these are the kinds of things that we'll need to cover in more detail as we're prioritizing and deciding what makes a cut for release. And one of the things that I think we'll need to have awareness of when we're prioritizing is how viable something is, so how broadly supported a feature is. And in this case, if they're successful in getting this to Envoy, my understanding is this already supported in Nginx?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that definitely goes a long ways, but maybe this is still a little early on the. Usually it takes a while for Envoy to actually.
We could also start
get anything in
with implementation specific, right, instead of extended, or.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly, generally, our idea for gaps is that I don't know that we've ever said this explicitly, but generally, if you have support from 2 of Envoy, Nginx, or HA proxy, that's a really good signal, 2 of 3. And this seems like it may almost be there, unless it already has HA proxy somewhere in there.
There are 3, right? And I can vouch for this one. This is true. I mean, we have a CRD for doing this.
Yeah.
Are they?
Anyway,
yeah.
No, I was about to say just let's follow up on the gap, and then you'll have 7 minutes to talk about versioning.
Roger that. Yeah, we're running low on time. Good call. I did bookmark it to bring back up with teams at Kong. Mattia is also here, so him and I will probably talk about it a little bit. But yeah, we do support this already, and promoting it into Gateway API spec sounds good. Thanks for raising that as well. These are all good raises that you've been doing today, Lior. Thank you. And then Rob, I don't see any hands, so we'll move on to the next thing. We have 5 minutes. So timing's ending up about perfect today. Ongoing discussion around versioning and release channels. Let's talk about that now.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way I can cover this in 5 minutes, but I just want to highlight that there has been some really good discussion. If you like to read long form comments, this is the thread for you, because there's some really good essays written back and forth. And I think the vast majority of comments in this thread are of the long variety.
If you like to send links to ChatGPT and have it summarize them, this is the one for you.
But for those that may not have been following this discussion, this is the broader idea that maybe we should split out experimental and standard channel CRDs so that they can coexist in the same cluster and not overlap with each other. So yeah, this is a really long discussion.
That's a tough question. It might end up being longer than 2104. Yeah.
Oh, 2104.
I should. The only reason I remember the number is that I happened to see it while I was scrolling over the project board, because it's one of the ones in the withdrawn column. But in all seriousness, one of the things that we really should do with this is, I kind of feel like we're at the point where the GitHub comments are long enough that we should come up with a way that we can publish a summary that, that's the state of the world so that we can move forward. I'm not certain of the best way to do that with the tools we have, but you know, Rob, maybe that's something we could kick around offline a little bit today. There is a lot here. There is an enormous amount of unburying of brokenness of Kubernetes versioning that is expressed in this document that we should probably be more explicit about. So it is interesting.
I'm very curious what you're trying. Oh no.
I am not confident, but I am curious. Yes.
Oh, I can't put it in. It's too many. It's like 72,000 characters.
Yeah.
And this one, DuckDuckGo's GPT can't eat a link, so never mind. But
I'm sure it could summarize the text of the link for you, though.
Yes, it could do that.
One of to respond to Flint's comment, one of the things that I think worked relatively well with policy attachment was a one-off meeting or two that were entirely focused on that tried to include as many people as possible that were interested in this. This specific topic is similar to policy attachment of you probably either care very strongly or not at all. And so maybe if we could isolate the people that care very strongly and just have a meeting or something like that to brainstorm ideas. I'm not suggesting that we're going to solve this in a single meeting or a single anything, but
a breakout might be good for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are closing in on time. We did a lot of good raising of issues that basically are existing things that, you know, to bring to people's attention. I think that's a great use of time for this meeting personally, just to kind of raise things. So for anybody else on the call, if you've had things that you felt have been kind of slipping to the background, that is a perfectly legitimate thing to put on future agendas. This thing's been around for a while. I would like to raise it for, you know, discussion. Please do. Otherwise, there's lots of things in here. Please do go over the notes for today and check out any of these that are interesting to you. Query params, OpenAI spec and ingress gateway, API spec, the versioning and release channels, and what we're going to do for version 1.2, etc. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. The next few of these will be at our Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, but it sounds like we're going to keep putting some pressure on trying to do more of this time soon-ish. So
yeah, maybe
keep in
even
touch with us.
Maybe even 2 weeks from now. I don't want to commit to that, but
cool.
I think soon.
Cheers, everyone.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye, all.